I am really good at saying no. I know it's a bad habit, but I have this ability to hear other people's ideas, other people's plans or suggestions, and I can immediately see the risks in those ideas or those plans. And I believe that I have that ability because I've spent a lot of my time in life focusing on being productive and focusing on work and my job. So much so that I've developed a mindset of workism. That is, I've developed a mindset in which I struggle to relax if I'm not doing something work-related, in which everything I do is going to be viewed through the lens of work. Now, this began in high school. In high school, I developed a set of habits and routines to become a more productive student, and even the habit and routine of high school itself and the all-encompassing mission of getting into a good college became the defining feature of my life. And then when I got to college, we were off to the races, and I was becoming even more obsessive with work, more addicted to being productive. And at first, this was a good thing. I mean, this is what got me through college. This is what allowed me to build a career that I love and I'm proud of. But over time, it became clear that this was too much of a good thing, that these habits and routines that were designed to support me ultimately were becoming restrictive of who I was and who I wanted to grow into. I mean, I had other hobbies and passions. I was artistic. I loved to draw, but that was time spent not working, and I felt guilty about that, so had to stop that. I used to read for pleasure once upon a time and play video games, but that was time spent not working. Even when I'd be spending time with my family and friends, there'd be that voice in the back of my head just reminding me, you still have work to do, Greg. You still have homework assignments to grade. You still have lesson plans to do. This mindset was changing my personality. This mindset was making me more risk-averse to anything that was not related to my job. But this question of why not is such a powerful tool. This offers us the opportunity to challenge our habits and routines, possibly even to disrupt our own mindsets. I mean, think of your own mindset for a second. Think about the habits and routines you go through as a high school student or teenager. I mean, how much of the homework that gets assigned on a regular basis dictates your routine? How much of your habits are now molded around trying to balance that with your extracurricular activities? I mean, we even have a bell system that's designed to tell you when to get up, move all the way across the entire building, and sit back down. Habits and routines influence who you are. They can become part of your identity. But this question of why not offers us a way to keep those mindsets and those habits in check. Now, I didn't really understand this until I became more reflective as an adult. And it wasn't even until I saw this photograph about a year and a half ago that I realized that I wanted to disrupt my own mindset. This is a photograph that I found on somebody's do-it-yourself blog, and this is known as an epoxy river table. And when I first saw this, I thought, holy cow, that's so cool. I have to build something like this. I mean, what you're looking at is two pieces of live edge wood with the live edges turned inward, which creates nice little nooks and crannies. And then you pour liquid plastic epoxy to join these pieces of wood together, creating a single tabletop that gives the illusion of a river flowing through it. I don't know about you, but I thought that this was the coolest thing in the world. I had to build it. And then a more sober second thought came in and said, geez, I don't know. Can I build something like this? And then the disruption. Why not? Why not? I mean, I know why not. I have a whole mindset that's determined to tell me why I shouldn't do stuff that's not related to work. But I understood that perhaps this might be a key to breaking down that mindset of workism. But I understood this is going to take more than what I would normally do. I mean, it's going to be more than just going to Home Depot on a Friday night and banging this out over the weekend. No, I'm going to have to do more here. So I decided I'm going to clean out the garage, which is always a good first step for any resolution. And then I'm going to build a woodworking table. And so I spent several months last winter building a woodworking table inside my garage. And I built this behemoth This way too big woodworking table. It's about 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, way too heavy to actually move around the garage. But this was a space that was dedicated towards building the epoxy river table. I could assemble the pieces of wood here. I could measure them, shape them, join them together. I learned a lot about myself actually building this table. I learned that I need more practice building stuff. I made a lot of mistakes on this table, but that's okay. It's a table in your garage. It's allowed to have those mistakes. So I resolved I'm going to need to build another table. I'm going to need to come up with a rough draft, if you will, of this epoxy river table. So I decided I'm going to build a butcher block table for the kitchen in our house. So I took the scrap wood from this woodworking table, and over the summer, I put it together in an interesting pattern, measured it out, cut it out. I glued it into a single tabletop, and then I spent what felt like weeks in the 90-degree heat of this July month that we had this past summer, sanding this down, leveling this thing out. I treated it with linseed oil to bring out the grain and the natural color of the wood. And then I poured liquid plastic epoxy on it to give it a nice protective coat, to see also how it works actually using this thing that I'm going to want to use for the river table. And then when I assembled it in the kitchen, well, I'm not going to lie, it looked nice. This thing worked. My wife liked it. My kids liked it, but they're 5 years old, so who knows if they actually liked it or not. But I liked it. I was proud of this. It looked like it belonged in the kitchen. This was good. Well, it was good, except for one little thing. I mean, the sides kind of turn inward, they bow a little bit, but it was hardly noticeable. Until it was more noticeable, and then more noticeable, and then undeniable that this table is continuing to warp on us day in and day out. I mean, our kids are getting confused because the crowns are rolling off the table, which is confusing to them because tables hold things up. They don't push things off. My wife and I, when we're having lunch or dinner, are seeing our drinks doing their best impression of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and we're just staring at our drinks and then staring at ourselves wondering, is this the day? Is this the day when this table's going to break down? Until that day did come, and that table did break down, and it broke into half, in 2 pieces. And this is one of those halves. This was a blow to the ego. This one hurt. I'm not going to lie. I really felt this one. I wanted to be upset about it. I felt like the time and effort that I put into this table was for nothing. I was lucky enough to be able to push through that reaction and remind myself why I set out to do this, why I built this rough draft. It was to build an epoxy river table. But also, more importantly, it was to disrupt my habits. It was to disrupt my mindset. And in that regard, this not table worked out perfectly. And so I'd like to share with you some of the lessons that I learned in disrupting my mindset. The first lesson I learned was, in order to disrupt your habits, you have to embrace your why not moment. And what I mean by that is, don't talk yourself out of your why not moment. Very often when we have a new idea or make a resolution, we consider all the risks and the negatives before we consider the positives. We consider what could be lost by doing this. If I spend my time doing this, then I can't do that. If I put my energy here, then I can't put it there. And when we do that, we create a natural bias against trying new things. I remember when I resolved to build an epoxy river table, the first questions I had was, do I have time for this? I've got lesson plans to do, I've got homework to do, I've got research papers coming in, I've got kids to take care of, oh, and I've got a family that I want to spend time with. Not to mention, do I have the energy for this? But I was panicking. I was panicking at the risks. But I was able to focus and to deliberately remind myself, this is something I want to do. I want to build this table. I want to disrupt that mindset. The second lesson I learned was, you have to plan a context for your own success. All right, it's January. It's the resolution-making season. How are we all doing with those? All right, don't answer too quickly, okay? I understand what it's like. Oftentimes when we create resolutions for ourselves, when we set out new goals, we go hard and strong for a little while, and we generally dive right in, excited to see what changes we can make, and within a month or two, we're lucky if we're still doing it. By the third or fourth month, we probably actually forgot what that whole resolution was to begin with. I mean, it's been a year and a half since I resolved to build the epoxy river table, and I haven't taken a single tangible step towards building it yet. But I have built a woodworking table. I've created a space that's dedicated towards disrupting my routines and building this larger project, and I have disrupted my mindset. All the while honing my own skills at this old passion that I used to have. I'm now in a more successful place now than I was a year and a half ago at building this imaginary table in my dreams. The last lesson that I learned was, when you commit to your why not moment, ask yourself, what will failure look like here? And then ask, would it be so bad if that happened? Failure is a natural and common part of life. Nobody likes to admit it, nobody likes to engage in it, but it's something that we're all going to have to deal with at some point. It's all something that we're going to have to practice and prepare ourselves for. So imagine what that failure would be like. Consider what you can do in order to prepare yourself for how to rebound from it. When this table broke down, it was painful. I wanted to react badly to this. I wanted to fall into self-pity. I wanted to walk away from the project entirely, exhausted from it. But I was able to deliberately choose how I wanted to respond to this. I was able to push through my emotional reaction and recognize that I have an opportunity here to demonstrate people who mean the most to me, my wife and my kids, that when I encountered a struggle with something that I thought was important, that I didn't just walk away, that I embraced my why not moment, even when it was difficult and very embarrassing. And I'm embracing my why not moment. I look forward to figuring out exactly how to put this table back together again and what it will look like when I do that. I share this with you as someone who has struggled with the fear of risking and failing to change my bad habits and my mindset of workism. And that's a struggle that I believe our young people, our younger generations, our millennials and our Gen Zers are going through as well. Growing up, the very act of growing up makes us more risk averse. In political science, this is known as the lifespan effect, in which the older you get, the more conservative you become in your thinking, the more protective you become of what you own and what you've accomplished in your life. Additionally, there are studies that are coming out month after month now that demonstrate that our younger people are more risk averse than older generations were at their age. In one study, it found that Gen Zers, their career goal in life is to find a stable and secure job. Another in the same study found that 70% of Gen Zers would prefer a stable job over a job that they're passionate about or that involves their dreams. It's easy to understand why our younger generations feel this way. They grew up in the context of the Great Recession. They learned in that economic downturn at a formative age that jobs are precious and fragile things and must be protected at all costs, sometimes at the cost of our dreams. Additionally, they grew up in the context of constant and unfettered access to the internet. Constantly bombarded by internet games, streaming apps, and social media that's building up wells of instant gratification and routines of constant emotional satisfaction that's just one click away. One study's actually found that millennials use streaming apps like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu to build up the same emotional satisfaction that they would get from long-term relationships or marriage. Now, it's easy to understand why. I mean, sometimes relationships go bad, sometimes marriages break up, but, Netflix will never dump you. With structural forces like these, we have to be aware of the fact that our habits and routines are going to influence our identity as they become the inertial force of our lives. But this question of why not, this is such a powerful tool, and it's a clear indicator of when and how we can change those habits and challenge our mindsets. Pay attention when you find yourself asking this question. Prepare yourself for how to make that question into a reality. Imagine how you might falter in it, because sometimes you might fail in it. But remember to embrace challenging your mindsets and your habits, because it's a deliberate practice, one that we can control. Thank you for your time.